Go.
Hello out there, and welcome to our New Hampshire Cross Country podcast. This is New Hampshire Cross Talks, and this is Ladies Night. So I'm joined by or with two of my fellow coaches here that they're going to introduce themselves in just a minute. But I just wanted to say again that if you want to tune in, you can see us on Spotify or listen to us on Spotify. Also watch us on YouTube. So give us a like and a follow and share with your friends. And again, let us know what you think. Give us feedback. And if you see us at meets, come up and talk to us and tell us what you think. So again, this is our New Hampshire Crosstalks podcast powered by Runner's Alley. And with me are my fabulous guests. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Steph Burnham, and I'm the girls cross country coach at Bedford High School.
Welcome.
And I'm Amy Sanborn, and I'm the girls cross country coach at Londonderry.
Awesome. And so you guys have been around the scene for quite some time. So this would be, oh gosh, I'm going to date myself, but my 24th year coaching cross country. How about you guys?
It's probably 15 or 16 for me with some breaks.
I'm coming up on, I think, 25. And before that, I was a runner here in New Hampshire. So I've been around New Hampshire cross country for quite a while. But for coaching wise, it's about 25 because same as you, Steph, it took a little break in the middle there and took a little bit of time off to have kids and then came back. So
that's right. And who did you run for?
For college?
Yeah, no, high school.
Oh, for high school, Oyster River. Go Oyster River.
So cool. You must be proud of them right now. They're kicking.
I'm super proud. One of the coolest things is every time I see them at a meet and they have the paw. That started back when we were in high school. My mom was searching online and found these little temporary tattoo things. And she's like, hey, what about this? And so she started making them for us and we started having the paw. And I just love to see, things like that just kind of keep going. And it's fun. I love Oyster River. Yay.
Well, that's awesome. How about you, Steph? Did you run for a New Hampshire team?
So I ran for Hillside Junior High School. That's where I started running. And then I didn't run at Central. I took those years and just ran on my own. I was a little bit intimidated by the team. Loved Mr. O'Neill. Shout out to him. But I was really intimidated. And then I ran at UNH.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm. I walked onto the team my junior year. Yep.
How awesome. Awesome. Well, you guys, I'm so excited that you're joining me and I can't wait to, talk to you about some of the fabulous things that, we had going on this weekend or this past weekend, starting with the couple of meets that we had this past weekend. One being the Moonlit Madness meet that neither of our teams were at, right? But it seems pretty cool because they start at 7:00 at night. That's kind of wild, right?
I love the meet that we went to, but honestly, I was wishing we were going there. It just looks so fun and so different. And I don't know, I'm going to keep it on my radar for future because what a cool idea. I've never seen anything like that. And I just thought it would be so much fun.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think the kids run with headlamps, right? They just have it lit up the whole way.
That's what it looked like. But
yeah. That's so. I wonder if they have an adult race because I would totally do that.
Yeah.
It's so fun. So just released were our Hoka Athletes of the Week that both came from that meet, actually. So we're going to give a shout out to Erin O'Shea from Messinic, who won the race. And I believe it was 1917. And she helped her team take home the victory. So Messinic actually won. They beat Keene, a D1 team, and Messinec's D3. That's amazing. Wow. So shout out to her. What a great performance there. And then also we're going to shout out to sophomore Sullivan Sturts, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's a repeat champ there, ran a 15:42 to lead the Keene boys team to the title at that meet. So awesome job. Well done, guys. And this coming Friday, that course is going to be hosting the CBC Championships. So same course, but I'm guessing not at 7:00 at night.
Yeah, probably not.
Right. So, so awesome job to all those athletes. And then we know we had the Battle of the Border. And what can I say? That was quite a day, huh?
Lots of mud.
Right?
Lots of mud.
It was like a perfect storm, we started late in the afternoon. In a normal situation, it would have been fine, but it was just as the downpours started, the meet began. And it didn't stop for very long. A few minutes here and there, it got a little bit lighter, but most of the time we were there, it was raining.
And I gotta say, they, I'm gonna shout out to the Alvern coaches for the work that they did to prepare that course, because I will say, prior to the rain, it was absolutely pristine. Walking on our course walk, we were like, man, this is gonna produce some really fast times. I mean, I don't know that I saw a route on the course. I know they spent countless hours, in fact, putting out plastic over pieces of the course so that it wouldn't get rained on. And then Mother Nature spoke, right?
And there's been, and I know Pinkerton's gone for a while. I think Bedford, you have as well, right? To that meet for several years, right? Because they've done a lot.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say they've done a lot over the years, because there used to be the soft sand too. And the course was very different years ago. And they put a lot of time and work into that course. It's just beautiful out there in the woods, and such a great trail.
Yeah, I was actually telling my runners, we didn't go last year or the year before, but we did a couple year stint before that.
Yeah.
And I was commenting to them because they love the course. The same thing, we were walking right behind Pinkerton, and we were all just enamored with how beautiful the course was and how great it looks. And I was saying, like, they've done so much work. Like, this is really turning into a fast and like really beautiful course. And like, no sooner had we commented on that than the rain just started going down.
No matter what you do, right? There's nothing you can do to that. We've all been at Dairyfield when it's just a total mess. Like, you can't,
Right. I mean, it is cross country, and that's what kind of makes it awesome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cool. So in a true Battle of the Border type style, if we could turn our attention to the girls race, I thought it was really cool that the top 3 athletes were all from different states.
Really cool.
I mean, how amazing was that? So, taking the top honors was Leah Perald. Hopefully I pronounced her name right as well. I'm working on it. And she was just kind of out in front right from the beginning. And she didn't even look like the mud was affecting her.
Yeah, she looked really fierce.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And then so Greta Hammer from Needham, right? And did she win the large school race at MI too? I think she did.
I think you're right. To go back and look.
And she was second. And then I think it's Carrie Drake from Maine was third. So I just thought that was wicked cool how we had 3 different states represented for the top 3 athletes. And then I don't know, like what, any thoughts that you guys had from the women's race?
I mean, it was incredibly competitive. We kind of knew going in that with the Meet of Champions being there, that it was going to bring out, some of the best teams, and it certainly did. And the rain did not keep anybody away. Everybody was there to run hard. So it definitely was. It was hugely competitive. What did we say? 7 or 8 of the top 10 teams for the girls were there?
8, I think 8 out of 10. Yeah. And I thought, we know that Oyster River has been strong, and they certainly showed their dominance on Saturday. Just looking at the depth of their top 5, their 5th girl was 17th. That is a pack. And they looked really, really outstanding, and they're young. Mm-hmm. So I think that they just kind of really showed that their consistency, to win the title and take it home for New Hampshire. Yeah. In the Battle of the Border, right? We actually had one of our girls who's new to cross country. This is her first season. She actually lost her shoe at about a quarter of a mile into it. So she ran the whole race without a shoe.
Jacob Redmond lost his too for Bedford. Just at the end though, not as far as your athlete had to go, but he did lose it. He ran like, I think he said like, maybe a quarter mile. It wasn't as far, but still. And I had a girl slip off the back of her heel too. So.
Right. I didn't see anyone fall though. Did you guys see anyone fall out there?
I had one of my athletes who kind of saw the mud down the back and said it was like a first quarter mile or so. And she said there were a couple of, people that had sort of jumped over, because that's a scary situation, especially at the start. There are just so many girls packed there. If one falls, it's like domino. So several of them did fall right there at the beginning, but I think it was early enough they could kind of hop back up and, get back into it. Yeah.
Right. And again, that's cross country, right? That's like the best example.
There's such a bottleneck there too, with such a strong field. It's not long before you get to that, they all kind of, and there was a big mud patch right there where they all blended together. So I think that keep that in mind for me to champions, I
mean, and that's the thing. Didn't you feel like it was almost like a dress rehearsal for me to champions?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, just really cool. And then that Needham, kind of mixing it up and placing third just behind Hanover. And we actually placed fourth in a tiebreaker. So that, was a perfect lesson that we had in the locker room about how the sixth girl really makes a difference, in that. So, I mean, that was kind of cool to see that play out. You don't always get to see that play out. It's usually pretty rare, but that was pretty neat.
Yeah. Really exciting finish too, with so many girls within just seconds of each other in that top pack with Fiona and Kels and Suki and like that. All of those girls were really within seconds. So it was kind of exciting to see that too. And I think shows us how, gritty it'll be at Meet of Champs.
Right. And we were watching the finish and we were watching the leans and we're like, look, that's what you got to do. But you can see it. You can see it on the video. So, the videos are just so cool because it really gives the athletes a chance to kind of like review their performance and others and kind of, get some feedback. Right.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts that you have? I don't want to monopolize this conversation. Now, this is our 5th episode and maybe people are tired of hearing my voice. From in the girls race, any other shout outs? Well, maybe we'll come up with something later. I'm sure we will. So in the boys race, that was kind of crazy, right? Because, what we had, first of all, I think it was it 10 out of 10 of the ranked teams were there on the boys side? That's wild.
I think so.
And they had the muddiest of conditions on the day.
Yeah, they did get the worst of it.
Crazy. And, I think it was really interesting how we had a 7th ranked team in Co-Brown move all the way up to placing 2nd in the Battle of the Border.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Right. So, and I think that just shows how close all the teams are on the boys side this year and how, that pack mentality is going to really make a difference at the end of the season for these teams. Right. I mean, it doesn't look like anybody's going to run away with it.
No, agreed. And I think with the freshman race in place 2, I know like Bedford had a boy running the freshman race who's probably part of the varsity team.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have that kind of like same thing that you had at Mansion Vite where maybe you're not seeing full teams out there. Plus everybody's sick.
That is so true.
Yeah.
It's definitely that time of year, right? So what I thought was interesting in the boys race is that we had, again, it's the Battle of the Border, right? And we had our first team, an actual Massachusetts team. So North Andover took the title above Co-Brown, which is, I thought that was pretty wild because we've gone not every year, but, a number of years, and I can't remember. And so nobody quote me on this, but I can't remember a Massachusetts team winning, at least on the girls' side in the years that we've been. So, so that was pretty cool, I thought.
It's really cool.
Yeah. And then on the boys' side, we get a shout out to Matt Giardina. Oh gosh, I can't. Somebody help me out.
I think Giardina. I think you're saying
yes. Okay. from BG who won in 15:32. I mean, that's a pretty fast time in those conditions. You know, so we got a shout out to him. So, and our podcaster, Lucian Glaser, and I should know how to say his last name too, but from Hanover, he was 4th on the day. So shout out to our podcaster there. Great race.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So any other thoughts about Battle of the Border before we talk about some other things?
I'll give a shout out to Jack Mortimer for winning the freshman race. I guess I shouldn't have been so cryptic when I was saying that he didn't run the varsity, but that was cool for him to win that race.
I felt like watching him. It was the first time I actually saw him run. I mean, or noticed that it was him, and it felt like a little bit of a flashback to watching his dad.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So I think we're going to see some really big things out of him for sure. So really, really cool. And he looks like he's so much bigger than I would expect a freshman. Like he already looks so strong, which is so cool. So on to the next topic is I think we all should talk a little bit, or maybe Steph can kind of share. She's been really kind of like spearheading this movement of education in women's running and put together entire forum. So do you want to talk about that a little bit and kind of share what you've been doing there?
Sure. So it was supposed to start in 2020, but that was COVID. So we had it actually all planned out. Actually, Amy, you were part of the planning for that. And I had lots of other friends who were really willing to help out with that as well. But we had to push it back. And so we've had it running now for 3 years. And the purpose of it is really education and sort of a celebration of New Hampshire running. So we like broadcast it as a fundraiser, but like we're not really interested in, I mean, it's nice to fundraise if we can, but my biggest objective is just to get as many kids as we can coming so that they have access to the information that we're providing. So I don't think I have time to talk about all of it, but I'll just sort of run through some of the like key people who we've had in the past 3 years. We always have a registered dietitian. The one that we've had coming most frequently has been Noreen Gallo, who is a registered dietitian out of Wyndham. And she was coming to speak to my team before we had Women Run New Hampshire, but she just gives a lot of like nonsense, really like easy tips for kids for fueling for performance. We also had Holly Samuel this year who came and spoke specifically. We hired her to speak to relative energy deficiency syndrome and also training actually around the menstrual cycle. So that was an interesting topic that we haven't had before. We have had Dr. Steven Gonzalez, who is the assistant athletic director at Dartmouth, and he like runs their mental performance. He's the director for leadership and mental performance. So I'm probably butchering his title, but he has come and spoken about performance anxiety, like training the mind to race. We've had a bunch of physical therapists, including the guys from Recover Athletics. They were awesome. They came the first year. We've had Dr. Annika Michaels from Evolve Physical Therapy, Danielle Temin from Revitalized Performance, Renegade Movement. We've had a behavioral health clinician, Alyssa Hamill, come for 2 years, I think she also ran for Winnicott many years ago. So she's part of the running community, and I think ran for Whirlaway too. We've had Rob Fierro come in to do self-defense. And then we just have a slew of like New Hampshire runners who've been on the scene for a long time, like you, Amy, Meg Saviano, who now coaches the boys at Bedford, Corey Dow, Jen Mortimer. We had Courtney Hawkins this year. We've had Mary Clenny. We've had Cassandra Marin, Emily Ristine. And then we usually have some everyday sort of like really cool runners who are just doing awesome stuff in the community. Like, I don't know if Yuki Chorney counts as an everyday runner. She's very extraordinary, but she came, queen of the trails and also queen of the costumes. And so she's come a couple times, and she came this year and did specifically a bedazzling seminar, which was wildly popular with everyone. And I think everyone went to hers and left with something bedazzled. So just to add a little fun, not so much education there, but in any case, the idea is just that we sort of run it like a school like a teacher workshop almost. So you pay your $12 to get in. We've had free shirts available the last 2 years provided by Delta Dental. And then you have access to any 4 of the workshops that you want to go to. So, and most of those people that come speak for more than one time. So people have many opportunities to check different things out. So we just feel like it's a valuable and very inexpensive day of fun for athletes in New Hampshire.
Right.
Kick off the season.
And specifically female athletes.
Yes.
Right.
I think we gear it toward female athletes, specifically high school, but I think we have had this year, our boys team came and they went to Dr. Gonzalez, his, training the mind for the miles talk. And they also sold smoothies as an addition to our fundraiser.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, there are some things there. I think there's something certainly for coaches of all genders, because we have a lot of men who are coaching women in this state as well. So they could certainly, I think, gain a lot for coaching all their athletes, not just the women. But
right. Well, I thank you for doing that for our community of women runners, because it's really important. And I know, when we were growing up, there wasn't a whole lot out there, and I loved my coaches. They were amazing, but they were both men. And I don't know if they really knew like what was going on with me, like mentally and physically, and kind of where I was coming from. So, coaching women or, young women is unique and it's really special, but also has, its own issues and things that we deal with that men don't. So that's really important to highlight those things.
But I think is really amazing, Steph, that kudos to you for opening this up to, we have several different things like across New England for coaches, but there really isn't a lot for kids to go to. So for you to open the doors for the athletes to go as well, I think is really, really important. And that's super special. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a selfish effort, to be honest with you, because I just really want my athletes to have access to all of these things. And it just makes sense that if we're going to put the work into getting all of these people together and having this day, that like everyone should have some access to it, so that kids everywhere, and even we have adult athletes who attend as well, who are not affiliated with high school, who just want to come and hear some of the speakers. And so that's been cool too. So it's been open to the public as well for the past 3 years.
Right. So when you say that you, want your athletes to hear these topics, why is that? Like, what personally connects you to these things, from your experiences as an athlete and, going through this process yourself?
So I think you address a little bit the fact that, when we were running in high school and college, again, I didn't run in high school. I was a runner, but I ran in college and have continued as much as my body will allow now. We didn't have the same access to some of the education that exists. I think there was sort of one story around what it meant to be a successful long distance runner. And it's of no real fault to anyone, but they're just, everybody did the best they could with the information that they had. And it was pretty common. I think it was very common on the teams that I was on, and to see around me in the environment, a lot of disordered eating, a lot of body dysmorphia, a lot of performance anxiety, a lot of misconceptions about what it means to be a runner, and like just the idea of what a runner's body is. And I think as I've gotten to be a coach, as an athlete, I accepted it. I was pretty, I don't know I'm not finding the word that I want to say, but I sort of like brushed it aside and accepted it as something that was just part of the sport. And it's a lot harder to accept that as a coach. It's a lot harder to see unhealthy habits spreading on a team. And sometimes, it's really hard to know what the right thing to do is. And so I think as a coach, I've become less able to accept some of that stuff as the norm. And I think a lot of professional athletes, Olympians, former collegiate athletes have come out now and started to sort of tell their stories and dismantle some of the truths that we all accepted in the past. You know, you can be a developed runner, you can allow your body to change, and you can still have a really successful career and probably a longer one. And so I think that's an important message for kids to know now.
Right. I actually think that that's an awesome thing for us to talk about here, because I think that coaching young women is so, from my perspective, is so much different than young men, because you see a really like a trajectory with boys where they start their freshman year and they're small and they're not as strong. And as they get stronger, they see forward motion where they keep getting faster, generally speaking. It's more rare to have freshmen on your varsity on the boys teams than seniors, because they get stronger. But on the girls' side, we'll see girls come in as freshmen, that are really small and young, and haven't matured, and they're running really, really fast. And as their bodies start to change, they have to change with it, right? Like, we have to change the training and we have to push through it. And that, I think, is where some of the issues begin to surface, when they're, going through those changes and it gets a little harder. Do you guys see that?
We see that all the time. And it's hard to, I think the more we talk about it, and the more that the kids see that it's, it's okay to talk about it and it's not just me, I think it's going to be huge, because they just think, this is me and I'm awful. And, but it's so true. And I love going to, the All-State banquet and seeing a senior that's back at All-State. They were an All-State and freshmen, and then they sort of disappear for a year or two. And then all of a sudden they're back. And it's just this moment of, they made it, like they got through that and that, when you get to that point, it's like, they're going to be okay. They figured out how to be okay in their own body now. And it makes me sad that I think it's such a struggle and it's so hard to get there. It's such an emotional piece as well as the physical piece. So I just think keep talking about it, and we're not alone.
Right.
We all go through it at some point. It's just a matter of when it happens,
I think that it's, I think that just reminding athletes that progression for female athletes is not always linear, and that, you might experience ups and downs, and just sticking with it in the tough times. I mean, it's a lesson for life, right? Like, if you want to be a lifelong runner, you're going to go through times where it's just things aren't going well and you're just going to put your head down and keep going. And I think learning that lesson and making kids realize, like, it's okay, like, it's going to be okay, like, the best is coming. You just have to ride it out. You can't fight against your body and like make yourself teeny tiny,
Right.
You have to do things differently, a lot of things, like in the weight room becomes a whole different thing. Your mileage becomes a whole different thing. We talk about growing pains. Well, those are different, for girls as well, and they're teeny tiny. But if you get, kind of on the other side of it and you're stronger, now you can be faster because you're stronger. And, it's just really hard. Yeah.
Right. And I don't know about you guys, but my best running was in my 30s.
Yeah.
It was well after college, when I got strong and I sort of figured it out, so, but what I love to see and what we try to do on our team, and I'll ask you guys if you do something sort of similar, but we have an alumni meet at the beginning of the season, and we have a JV faculty race at the end of the season. And to me, I don't actually put any parameters around people that come. I just ask anybody to come, because the most important thing for me is for my girls to see adult women running, and to have that as an example, and to know that, like, you can continue it and you can get stronger. I want them to see that. And so I just want to get as many adults to those races as possible to be an example for the girls on my team. Do you guys do anything similar on your team?
We haven't done anything like that in a lot. We used to do some of those things. We haven't in a long time, but I think it's great. And I always kind of judge the success of my coaching on who's still running, you know? So if those people are coming back and they're out of college and they're still running and they're doing road races or they're doing marathons, like, wow, we must have done something right. Like they still like it. They still want to do it, you know? But I think those are great things to have to bring them back on your campus and have them go back, you know, and see the high school kids and blend. And I think it's great.
Yeah, we don't have an alumni race yet, but we're also like just nearing the 20-mile mark of the school being open. So we're like getting to the point where that's probably something that we could start doing and make it kind of successful, I think.
Right.
I love the idea.
Yeah, it's cool. I think so, you know, while we're talking about the differences between, you know, boys and girls and kind of some of the unique challenges, I think that team building is so important on girls teams. You know, I feel like, and I'm not trying to, I'm not a boys coach, but I know that boys can be really competitive with one another in a positive way. And I feel like for girls, it's really important to develop that team aspect. What are your thoughts about that?
I 100% agree. And I think that every team is like, you know, a little bit different. And so that's something that I work really hard on. And I sometimes think I'm not as successful as I want to be. So it's like a constant struggle to, I don't know, make sure that I'm like helping work on building that team culture.
Well, I asked the kids last week for a word or two or three to describe their team, and Fiona said sisterhood. So I would say you're doing a fine job.
I try.
How about you, Amy? You have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we work really hard on that part. And I think, you know, we have some of the best kids in the school on cross country. You know, that's who we get. We're very fortunate, the kids that we get. And so but sometimes you get different types of kids, you know, and bringing them together. But I think that's one of the most important things, is that you care about each other. It's not fun very often, you know. It's like, I was just talking to one of the girls the other day. It's like most people, they'll be like, you know, cross country practice was just super fun. We went out and did 800s and we did hills and it's like, it's pouring rain, it's 40 degrees. Like most of the time it's not really fun, you know? So you have to take those fun moments or those, wow, this is really hard. But you're there for each other and you're yelling at each other and you love each other and you truly just want to bring each other up. I think that's what makes cross country. I mean, it's even when I was in high school, you know, and the camaraderie with other teams. I still remember, you know, Hanover and Oyster River were huge all through my high school. If we weren't winning, then Hanover was winning, you know, and we were right there. We loved Hanover and we were, you know, they were awesome people. When we were on the course, it was different, but you know, we loved them too. And it was just, I think it's a family in the sport as well as on the team. You know, I don't know, I think it's just unique. You got to be kind of different to do what we do, you know?
Right. Well, Lucian from last week said it's a 603 family.
Yeah.
So, and that is definitely true. But I think it's really important for girls to get on the line and feel like they're doing it for each other. Like they're beating for each other. It's like more than for yourself, right? Like, because I think women, we're always thinking of others before ourselves. And I think that we're giving in that way. And so, you know, it's really important for us to feel like we're competing for the common goal, right? It's not just, it's bigger than ourselves.
I think that becomes a hard part as coaches as well, because you focus so much on this, right? And we have so many races where we all are together. and we can have our varsity and our JV races throughout the season, but we don't truly have to pick until the end. And you get so tight and close, and you're just all one family. And sometimes it's hard to be like, you all love each other and want to help each other, but then at some point you have to choose, and now you're picking, you know, and then it becomes like you're breaking the family up. You know what I mean? It's that it sometimes it gets a little hard because you're just so close, all of you.
Right.
Well,
but
and also, sorry.
No, go for it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, it also ties into that, the anxiety that can come when you feel like, you know, there's always that constant reminder, like, we win as a team, like whatever we accomplish, we do as a team. But I think on the shoulders of the 7, you know, in the race, there's always someone who feels like it's all on, you know, it's all on me, or if they're, whatever happens, it's like they're at the end apologizing to all of us. And, you know, I always,
again, it's unique to our sport, right? Like, you can't hide.
No.
You know, if you're on a field and there's 15 or 16 or whatever, or if you make a mistake, you know, 5 seconds later, you have a chance to redeem yourself, and you can go, you know, do something else and be like, see, I am good. I did, you know, I'm doing something to help. But with us, it's, you can't hide. Like, if you don't have a good day, then everyone knows it was you. Like,
right.
You know, and that's hard. And so that absolutely, especially with women, you know, we tend to put all that pressure on ourselves anyway. And so now it was like, what do you say?
Right. You know what I love though, is that I think some of our young people are, you know, because we put so much pressure on kids in high school to perform, and there's so many AP classes, like way more than, you know, when I was in school. And there is so much pressure. And I think there's also fear of failure, right? And so in that fear, a lot of our young people don't put themselves out there. And so what I'm always giving credit to my girls for is that every week they're putting themselves out there with risk of failure. And in doing that, you're making yourself stronger, right? Like, because every week you're testing yourself, and it might not end well, right? It's hard. And when you do that, like, I feel like you can do anything because you know, like, you've put yourself out there, like, and so even if you fail, like, that's a lesson learned for the next time, you know? And I tell my girls, like, look, like, I can always think about the fact that I stood at the bottom of Dairy Field, and I looked up at that hill, and I knew that this performance mattered for other people. If I can do that, then I can go and sit in this interview, or I can take this test.
Yeah.
I agree.
I didn't want to, I was like, I'm going off on a tangent here, and I didn't want to.
No, it's good. It's good. It takes courage. Every time you pin the bib on, right, and you lace up your spikes, it's courage. And everybody's dealing with something on that day. Like, maybe you don't feel well, maybe something hurts, like, whatever it is, like, you have to overcome those demons. And you do.
Do you guys, I feel like part of what I love about coaching young women is there is a lot like to the psychology of it, because, you know, one girl might respond really well to tough love, like, where another one might just need me to literally hold their hand at the starting line, to another one that I might not, like, I can't even look at them because then I'm going to freak them out. So I have to send another girl over to talk to them. Like, do you guys see that too on your teams? Like, do you have experience with that?
Yes.
Yeah. I would joke, like, some girls, if they're crying on the starting line, that's good. And some girls, it's over. It's not going to be the, you know, it's like, depending on the kid, tears could be good, tears could be bad. You don't know. Some of them talk and it drives the others crazy because they're nervous and don't stop talking. You know, the others are like, I can't talk, leave me alone. It's totally, everybody's different. 100%.
And the finish line, sometimes you have to, like, hide a little bit to, like, look to see, like, is it going to be safe for me to go over there?
Yes.
Or should I wait?
Completely agree. Again, tears, good or bad, you don't know.
Right. Usually somebody on the team will kind of let me know.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So, you know, What about for training? Like, do you think that there are any unique needs for, women versus men, or when we're dealing with, especially not even women, just women, but young ladies?
I find that it's so hard because I think, you don't want to stereotype or generalize too much, but typically we get girls and they tend to be weak, right? When they're 14, 15, and they do so much sitting in school and all that. So I find there's so much, like, their core is where everything focuses, right? And we tend to be, guys are built more and stronger and you can kind of do a little more, but it's like we kind of have to start at the beginning, because if you do too much when they're so little and young, they're just breakable.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of prehab, like foot and core stuff is really important, I think, to front load in this season, especially with the new freshmen, and like kind of hope for the best and hope that they're not wearing flip-flops around school for the first 3 weeks and I'll have like plantar fasciitis and shin splints, and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. We have a rule. They're not allowed to wear sandals off the bus.
Good rule.
Just not allowed. Yeah. I think that, I have to look at each girl, and it's like not a one size fits all, right?
Mhm.
Like, so one girl might actually need to do a cross training day every single week, right? Like, whereas some other girls will respond well to like high mileage. But I don't know, for me, like, I'm always looking at like, how do I prepare them to get out of high school and want to continue? So I'm always trying to look at it as like a long-term thing, not like necessarily how can we get the most success out of this season, as opposed to how do I keep them healthy all year?
Same.
Mhm.
Same. And my training was always really different and still has been. My body has never been able to handle, even when I was in college, high mileage. And I raced fine off of a lot of cross training, and that's what I needed. And luckily I had a coach who did that for me. And so I try to be mindful of that, but figuring that out for some kids can sometimes be tricky too.
Mhm.
What do you guys see as like your most common injuries on your team? Like, if you had to pinpoint it to like one or two things that you see all the time pop up.
Hips,
Like IT?
like IT or hip flexor, or just like, yeah, and I think that goes back to core, right?
Yeah, IT band is probably the biggest one. And I think it's like partly core, and I think partly just like so much, we're sitting a lot at school and then getting up and coming to practice. They're just not quite used to it yet. Their body's not strong.
Right. Well, I think that also with, maturity and your body changing shape, right? So then like your hips are then putting a different stress on your knee. And so then we have that kind of struggle there of the different quadricep muscles. And I think that creates a lot of issues. And then we always see shin splints.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say next. Yeah. And you don't know, the problem with shin splints is like, it's just a general thing. Everybody says shin splints, right? So any kind of shin pain or in the general area, it's shin splints, but there's so many different layers to that. Like, and you trying to figure out with every kid, like, oh, you're just, you didn't like the workout yesterday, or, oh, you don't like hills, or nope, I need to shut you down because this has been happening for 2 weeks and you didn't say anything. And now it's going to break. Like, there's so many different layers with them of what that shin splint is. You know what I mean? I find those to be so hard.
I think they come on so fast too for some kids that like while they're trying to, sort of manage them or maintain them, and then suddenly they're terrible, and it's a very painful thing to have. So can't really stop thinking about it until they warm up, and then after you run, it's excruciating. So
and then depending on your school, I know for us, Bedford, you don't come over too much, but Amy, you like, they keep taking away our woods,
right?
So it's like getting off the pavement is just getting harder and harder. And so we do a lot of like the back dirt road, but going and just getting lost at Battle of the Border, like over in Elvern, that's just Mines Falls. Just go get lost for a while and stay off the pavement. It's harder to do that now, I think. So.
Right. I keep, I keep wanting, like, trying to teach my kids how to roll their calves, because I find that most of the shin pain is coming from the calf, and
Yeah.
teaching them how to do it properly, because everybody's just going to sit on a roller and go back and forth and not have a clue what they're doing. So
Yeah.
There's some good band work too that some of the PTs showed athletes at our conference. So something to think about too that can like look up.
like the strengthening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. And with freshmen in particular, it's like they don't really know how to train. And so you have to kind of give them a buy on that. And you don't want them to train too hard, because they don't really know what they're doing, right? But then you have some that will come in haven't run a step all
Right.
summer, and their core is weak, and so it's like really predictable that 2 weeks after the season, here we go with the shin pain. So I don't know. I wish that I could. We just actually had a sending town meet today. We had all the schools come and race, and we got to meet them and stuff, but not something I could really talk about there, right? Like, we're trying to get them to come and run with us, and we don't want to talk about shin pain, but wish I could, like, go see all the schools and talk to them about just, a little bit of proper training. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a hard sell. Like when you're talking about summer training with new students, new athletes, it's like, if you build a small base, then when you come in and we start to put the intensity in and you start to like build the mileage, it'll be easier for you to adapt. But that, I think, until you live it as a new athlete, it's hard to like really understand what that means and what that's going to look like.
Right. Are there any other issues that you guys see pop up on your teams, things that impact performance?
I have, I'm sure we all get it, but, and it's easy to say eating issue with females, right? But I specifically is not eating enough to perform to the level, like, not saying necessarily we're talking like, we don't want to dive too deep into, eating disorders, but I'm just saying they show up to practice and, they've had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and that's all they've had all day. Or they had an apple, or you know what I mean? It's like, so trying to get them to understand that for what we're doing with you, the amount of calories that you need is way more than you think. Like, one little thing isn't enough, and it's just not your fuel. And so getting them to understand that I find that to be really difficult.
Right. Yeah. And, I remember back, in high school, and, I weighed about 100 pounds and I was starving all day from running cross country. I mean, I literally had a snack each period every 45 minutes, and I still could not keep weight on in cross country. I mean, because their metabolisms are so high, right? And so then their body starts to take that nutrients from them, or from them. Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it takes it from our bodies. And then that's just not a long-term safe place to be, or a place to get strong.
Yeah.
I think underfueling is like really common just with athletes of all ages. I think a lot of adult athletes you don't realize how much you need. And the fact that, like, even on your rest days, right, you're fueling, like, you're always having to fuel like an athlete. So like your recovery day is like, you need to fuel on that day. And I think you just, sometimes it's hard to realize how much you really need to be consuming.
Well, and also the types of food, right? Because having a box of what's the word I'm looking for? Like, what are those gummies, those Sour Patch Kids or whatever? or even like, on the flip side, I had kids that would go after practice every day and get bagels at Dunkin' Donuts and then go home. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not telling you not, like I would never, ever tell them not to eat, but is that then helping you eat a healthy dinner? You know what I mean? Like, there's the right things to eat. So, like, not that you don't want to eat carbs, but you also want to, like, have a dinner that has a carbohydrate, like, it has protein, it has, like, all the components. So, I think they don't really even understand necessarily what those components should be.
I think there's two other factors I see too. One of them being their schedule as well, trying to fit, the way that they should eat into their school schedule. And then the other part is some of the dietary things that have been more common over the last 5 to 7 years, right? So maybe they're vegetarian or vegan or gluten-free, or so now take this whole other issue as well as like eat, but eat healthy and not in that way, get all the nutrients you need. So I mean, I think that's really difficult, especially like with the vegetarian piece. So now what nutrients do you not have? So are you getting that in another way?
That's one of the reasons why it's good to have like someone like Noreen come, because she gives the kids, she makes little like power balls for them so they can try, and they're like 4 ingredients, so the kids all make them after she's left. Like they all go home, and I get emails from all the parents that they've gone out to buy the ingredients because they have everything they need. And then she gives them a list of like power snacks and like a list for parents of like what you can put in your kid's backpack, and just like really no nonsense stuff. I mean, sometimes I think it can be hard when someone's giving you like, eat 8 bananas or whatever it, like, there's sometimes it seems like, well, that's not possible. And I think she gives a lot of like really like relatable options for kids.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we have to get her number.
Yeah. I was just thinking that email after the fact.
Right? Seriously. Because I feel like every year we're sort of having those same conversations. It's like a new year. So you're teaching that same thing over and over again. And I think hearing from an expert is much more powerful than your coach that you get to listen to every day. Right.
Yeah.
I also don't want to tell kids what to eat. Like, I don't think it's appropriate for me to, because what works for me might not work for them. And I don't want them to be fearful of any sort of food or like any sort of choice, or think like, well, coach said this, and so, this is what I have to do. And so I've tried to like be really careful about that in the last couple of years, because they do sort of hang on every word sometimes.
Right. Yeah. It's hard. And we're not experts.
Nope.
Yeah. We're just trying to figure it out ourselves. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know it's been a while, right? But then we start talking about running and it's hard to stop. But I had a thought, like maybe this is how we could wrap it up, would be like if you could send a message to your former self, when you were running in high school, now that you're old and experienced, what would you say to your former self as a high school cross-country runner? Did I phrase that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So for people who are listening, I just kind of came up with this. So you got to give them time to think.
I think that I would go ahead, Steph, you go first.
I guess I would tell myself that when you're 42, you're going to still want to run fast. And so you need to do the things now that are going to allow you to do that. Eat, roll, stretch, sleep, take care of your body. You only get one.
That's good.
That is a good message. How about you, Amy?
I think I would say, because I wasn't always the fastest, I worked hard. And sometimes that was tough for me as a 16-year-old. Somebody would show up that was, a freshman and had lots of talent and would jump on and I worked hard. I continued to do the mileage and put in the time. So I guess I would say it does pay off, and it makes you a stronger person later, and it teaches you skills about when it is, not going the way you want it to, you will continue and you will persevere, and you kind of learn that then, that it didn't come easy, but that was okay. It does work out, and it's teaching you sort of life skills. Keep working at it, keep working hard, and you'll get there.
Right. And I think for me, I would tell myself to be kind and patient with myself, because I think there was a lot of times I was really, really hard on myself. And that I would say to stick with it, because this sport has given me so many gifts beyond times and performances, but so many friendships. my best friends were on my cross country teams. Even the people that I'm closest with now are the people I run with. And I'm just so thankful for the opportunities that running has given me. I've gotten to travel because of running. I've gotten to meet so many neat people, and I get to be inspired by the people on my team, the kids on my team daily. So I would just tell myself to keep, to keep at it and to be kind and thankful. Yeah. So maybe I should tell myself that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are not bad lessons for any time, right?
No, right. So we'll have to do this again in 20 years and then say, what would our message be?
Yeah.
So anyways, hey, I probably should say before we leave that I want to remind coaches that they should check out our HOKA Results Hub and send in pictures, videos, anything, because we need everybody's pictures and videos. We can't be in all places at once, right? So check out New Hampshire Cross Country, the website. Send in your information, your recaps, your pictures, videos, because we want it.
Because we just love to showcase all New Hampshire running, because we just think it's the best. So we want everyone to be represented on there.
Yeah. So, hey, you guys, I really appreciate you joining me. I know this is the first time you've done a podcast, but I think you guys did a fabulous job. And, you guys are resources for our young women. I'm thankful to be coaching alongside you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah.
So to all of our podcast listeners, this was episode 5. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you next week. I don't know about you guys, but I love New Hampshire cross country. How about you guys?
Oh yeah, love New Hampshire cross country.
It's the best season ever.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.